Hello everyone, why is the geography of Bangladesh so special? This is Bangladesh, a country between India and Myanmar, whose history and geography are both very unique and special. There is talk of Bangladesh everywhere these days, and the reason for this is the recent political changes there. Let's start. If you like a map animated videos related to focus on geography. But very few people know that the real talk of Bangladesh should be about its geography. If I say that Bangladesh comes among the few countries in the world who have been given a literally blessed geography by nature, then it will not be wrong. But it is this geography that makes Bangladesh very special. At the same time, it also creates a lot of problems for it. The location of Bangladesh makes it geopolitically very important, because Bangladesh is the main player in Southeast Asia that balances the power struggle between China and India. Bangladesh has the world's most fertile land, because here Ganga and Brahmaputra meet two big rivers of South Asia and make the world's largest river delta, and these rivers then fall into the Bay of Bengal. Bangladesh also has the world's longest uninterrupted beach, which is called Cox's Bazar Beach, due to the minerals that come with these rivers. The soil here is the most fertile in the world for agriculture. These fertile lands, more than 700 rivers and access to the sea were the reasons why this entire area of Bengal has always been India's richest province. Before the Europeans came here, Bengal was the largest exporter of silk, cotton and handicraft items until the 15th century. Bengal's textile industry was famous all over the world, and 80% of the raw silk exported from Asia was exported from Bengal to Central Asia and Europe through silk routes. When the Portuguese explorers came here for the first time in the 16th century, they were stunned to see the happiness here, the handloom industry, art, agriculture of this place. So much resources and industry was nowhere in Europe at that time. The Portuguese had run away that they had discovered the golden bird. That's why French traveler Francois Bernier wrote that Bengal in the 17th century was happier than Egypt at its peak. Now this was the time when the Portuguese Empire was sending its explorers to the seas of the world and discovering trade routes and new continents. At that time, all trade from Europe, Asia and the Middle East was done through this silk route, which was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. The Portuguese Empire wanted to reach Asia directly through the sea. He did not have to deal with the Ottoman Empire in the meantime, and he picked up the goods directly from the Asian market at a cheap price and brought them to Europe. In this effort, in July 1497, the Portuguese Empire sent explorer Vasco da Gama to discover a sea route up to India on 4 ships with 170 people. After a dangerous journey of 10 months in which they had to face sea storms many times, they finally reached the Malabar coast in May 1498. This was a very big discovery. The whole European world had now found out that it can also be reached through the sea to India. After this, in 1517, a Portuguese businessman, listening to the praises of European explorers, reached Bengal. He was very impressed by Bengal's economy and infrastructure, and he gave the news here to his Portuguese commander present in Goa. At that time, Bengal was under the control of the Mughal Empire. In 1528, the Portuguese Empire took license from the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan and started trading from Chittagong, which is now called Chattogram. Within a short time, the Portuguese Empire began to increase its influence and control over Bengal. Large buildings began to be built here, which began to be used as warehouses, and not only this, but the Portuguese Empire began to buy small children from poor Hindu and Muslim families and make them slaves, and they were also forced to convert to Christianity. The Portuguese Empire made Hooghly their trading hub here, and from here they started trading in the whole of Bengal and India. This shocked the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan a lot, and in 1632 the Mughal army attacked Hooghly and conquered it after 3 months of encirclement. In this battle, about 1,000 Portuguese were killed and about 4,000 were taken prisoner. After this, the Portuguese Empire began to lose control over Bengal, and this is where East India Company entered. East India Company also made its first settlement here near Hooghly, and then slowly made the whole of Bengal its trade center. In 1690, East India Company made Calcutta its commercial capital, and from here it started doing business worth crores. With this profit, East India Company continued to increase its control over Bengal, but they got their real control over Bengal when in 1757 Battle of Plassey and 1764 Battle of Buxar they defeated the Mughal Empire and took control of the whole of Bengal. In 1757, after defeating Nawab Siraj-ud-Dawla, the British looted Bengal so much that when Robert Clive reached Britain from Bengal, it took many days to remove the treasure chest. With all this money, the British Empire began to install textile industries in Britain. India's trade capital was now Calcutta instead of Delhi. The British openly started exploiting Bengal. With the money from Bengal, textile industries were installed in Britain and then high custom duties were placed on Bengali textile industries so that Indian cloth becomes so expensive that it cannot compete in the international market. Bengal's local industry was completely destroyed, and not only this, but the British also spent their military campaigns in the rest of India from Bengal. Bengal's industry, its agriculture, everything was under the control of the Britishers. Bengal remained under the Britishers' control from 1757 to 1947, and during this time, there was a terrible famine. Once in 1770, when there was no monsoon, there was a terrible famine in Bengal and Bihar, and at the same time chickenpox also spread, which killed 30% of the population of Bengal at that time. But despite this, the Britishers collected 30–40% of the taxes from the Bengali farmers. Similarly, once again in 1943, there was a terrible drought in Bengal. On the one hand, people in Bengal had nothing to eat, and on top of that, the Britishers started exporting all of Bengal's production due to World War II. And at the same time, 300% taxes were imposed on the farmers to pay for the war. Between 1943 and 1944, 300,000 people died in this 1 year. Now if you read Western textbooks you will find that the reason for this famine was inadequate food supply. But who created this food supply shortage will not be mentioned. Actually, these 300,000 people died due to the cruel policies of the Britishers. Then in 1947, Bengal was further divided on the basis of Hindu and Muslim majority areas. Hindu majority Bengal became a part of India and Muslim majority Bengal became a part of Pakistan, which was called East Bengal. But this same East Pakistan later became a new country, Bangladesh, apart from Pakistan in 1971. Despite the division, this new country, Bangladesh, was in a very strategic position. Bangladesh is a natural link between South Asia and Southeast Asia. Any regional trade coordination, whether it is ASEAN or SAARC, cannot be without Bangladesh. Most importantly, Bangladesh is very important for India and China. And the reason for this is that India's biggest geographical weakness is the Siliguri corridor, also known as Chicken Neck. This is a 24-kilometer wide road between Bangladesh and Nepal, through which India is connected to its 7 northeastern states, also known as the Seven Sisters. These states include Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, and Arunachal Pradesh. Now China claims Arunachal Pradesh, but this state is under Indian control. Similarly, in the northeast of India, there is Sikkim along the borders of Nepal, Tibet and Bhutan, which China recognized as an Indian state in 2003, and in return, India also accepted Tibet as China's territory. There are about 5 crore people in this entire northeastern region, and if China reaches this Siliguri corridor in the form of any war and knocks it down, then India will be cut off from its entire northeastern area, and it is obvious that because the supply line is cut, it will be easier for China to occupy this area. That's why Bangladesh is very special for India and China, because these 7 states share the longest border with Bangladesh. Here, another very interesting thing is that many people think that India's longest border is with China, while India's longest border is with Bangladesh, and that's why India wants friendly relations with Bangladesh, so that not only can it keep the Siliguri corridor safe in every situation, but also have a smooth connectivity with its Southeast Asia and its northern states. Now, on the other hand, China considers Bangladesh a very important component in its maritime Silk Road strategy, because now all of China's trade goes straight from its eastern coastline to the rest of the world. Now, China's attempt is to go directly through Bangladesh to the Bay of Bengal and not have to go through the Strait of Malacca, because all this route is surrounded by American ally countries. By coming directly to the Bay of Bengal, China will get easy and quick access to the Indian Ocean. That's why China first gave Bangladesh products duty-free access to China in 1974, and then China also offered Bangladesh $1 billion to develop the Teesta River. The reason for this was that China wanted to bring Bangladesh's government with it. China is also building a port in Cox's Bazar Beach, which has been officially inaugurated in 2023. And this is not an ordinary port, but a proper naval port where Chinese submarines, warships can dock. But friends, another very interesting thing here is that there is a small island of 3 kilometers in the northeast of the Bay of Bengal, just 9 kilometers from Cox's Bazar Beach, which is called St. Martin Island. This island is now under the control of Bangladesh, but before 2012 Myanmar also claimed it. But then the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, that is at LOS, declared it part of Bangladesh. Now the interesting thing here is that recently Bangladesh's ex-Prime Minister Hasina Wajida stated that America has a very big hand in bringing down their government, because they did not allow America to build a base on this St. Martin Island. This has been on the news for many years that America wants to build an air base here, so that even if China bypasses the Strait of Malacca through Bangladesh, America can keep an eye on its activities through this base. And now that China has built an naval port in the Bay of Bengal, America's air base has become even more important here. And on top of this, which country will the new government bow to in Bangladesh? This point is now the focus of attention of the whole world. If we come back to the geographic features of Bangladesh, then as we have discussed before, this river is Bangladesh's largest resource. Where the rest of the world is in need of water, Bangladesh has a lot of water. In fact, there is a little more water than necessary. The biggest issue of Bangladesh is that there are very dangerous storms and floods here every year. In every monsoon, this river boils and these 70% highlighted areas of Bangladesh are at risk of destruction due to floods. And this happens in almost every monsoon. The reason for this is that in South Asia, monsoon winds originate from the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. And because Bangladesh is right next to the Bay of Bengal, the most rain happens here. But still, the kind of fertile land and sea access Bangladesh has, if Bangladesh gets a committed leadership, the fate of this country can change. For now, the focus of the whole world will be on a new government coming to Bangladesh, because it will decide the power balance of Southeast Asia. I pray that the situation in Bangladesh gets better as soon as possible and it takes full advantage of its untapped potential. These are all the sources from which we have consulted for this video. Once again, if you are interested in such geography and map animation videos, then be sure to watch the playlist called Countries Geography. In it, we have already discussed the geography, history and facts of more than 10 countries in the same way. You will find its link at the end of today's video. See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Take care of yourself. Halayanfin.